All right, so welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Enhancing Your Formative Assessments with AI. The bit.ly is pinned in the chat. You can also, if you choose, you don't have to, but you can open up your ChatGPT account. You may want to play around while we're in there and experiment with things and test things, because that's the tool we're going to focus on using today. Thank you for all of our amazing staff that are joining us. Fantastic. All right. So since that bit.ly is there, we're going to move forward. My name is Sadie Hoover. I know my account, wherever it's showing for you, says DLC, but we have a main account that we record from. But my name is Sadie, and it's Hoover, like the dam. So if you have any questions, you can just feel free to ask. We also have with us Danielle and Mike, who have joined us. They're going to help facilitate the session a little bit and monitor the chat and all that. Hey, Danielle. There's Danielle. Where's Mike? Mike, can we see? Are you there? I can't even tell. I see your little icon. Perfect. Mike's here. All right. So, hey, there he is. So y'all can see a face with the name. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So we are all digital learning coordinators, and we support different areas historically in this year. And I'm in the northern area. And of course, as you can see, Danielle serves the northwestern schools and Mike in the southwestern area. So if any of you are from any of those schools, then you may see some familiar names. All right. And go ahead. Everyone's muted, I think, already, so we're good to go there. But if you would, those of you who have not had an opportunity yet, go ahead and drop your name, your school, and your role in the chat so that we can see who's here. Good morning, Kim. Oh, we have an AIG teacher. I love it. Special ed. Perfect. Science. All of our subjects are covered from SCORE Academy. Look at that. And a counselor. Wonderful. An ESL teacher. Fantastic. Woohoo, Hadley. Hey. Aw, Hadley. That brings back good memories.
Nice to see you.
It's good to see you and hear your voice. I love it. I'm glad you're here. Hey, everyone. Got some ESL teachers, more counselors. Wonderful. Oh, Kevin, what's SAP? You're going to have to tell me what that is.
A student assistance program. It's like the school social worker in high school.
Oh, nice. Okay. I love that. Thank you for explaining that. I didn't realize they had like a sort of a different kind of
Every high school has one.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I just see it. I'm actually in, well, I guess I'm in the psychologist's office, but yeah, she's at like a high school and elementary, but they all have the same titles. Lots of fun things. That's cool. Awesome. Somebody at central office. I love it. And Carpenter. Great. We're so glad you're all here. All right. We are going to keep going. If you want to join the bit.ly, don't forget that's pinned in the chat, and you're welcome to, but are not required to be in ChatGPT. You can really just sit back and listen today. So we are here celebrating National AI Literacy Day. It's not a WCPSS thing. National AI Literacy Day is a day where we recognize the need to just build our digital literacy skills and focus on artificial intelligence. And so we've kicked off this event, these little mini webinar series, so that we can just bring some extra learning to our district on this nationally recognized day. And the goal is to provide just a variety of activities and professional learning for educators. And so that's why we're all here together. And so with that said, here we go. So in this session, we're going to kick off your learning with the following goals. And by the end of the session, hopefully you will understand a little bit about the craft model to write AI prompts. We hope that you'll be able to maybe learn how, even if you're not comfortable with it yet, but at least be exposed to learning how to create standards aligned assessments that can partner with ChatGPT to make those. And then also how we can use that to create some feedback for student responses when they are completing these assessments. All right. And don't forget, if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat as we go. So before we dive into those things, we would love to get to know about those of you that are participating live. If you're watching the recording, you can just pause and think about your knowledge for this. But in the chat, those of you that are here, go ahead and drop a number 1 through 5 to show how comfortable you are creating AI prompts with the craft model. All right, I'm seeing some 1s, some 4s. All right, Lisa. She's seen that craft model. I love it. Some of you have seen it, but maybe haven't tried it or don't feel comfortable yet. We've got some folks that are new. The numbers are rolling in. We need a fun feature in the chat that we need an AI tool that will tally and give us an average. Awesome. All right. So, perfect. So we even have some other experts in here who might be able to help. So if you have questions, y'all can jump in and help each other too. Perfect. All right. Thank you. That is very helpful. All right. So here we go. We are on slide 7 for any of you that are following along in your own slide deck and as you're previewing. But we are going to get started with the craft model in a moment. But first, I wanted to provide some learning around formative assessment. Just a way to provide some context before we're ready to use that generative AI in the classroom. So formative assessments are really an essential element to teaching and learning. And so as we think about that, we're kind of going to level set our vocabulary and our thinking. So formative assessment should align to standards, right? That's super important. And it should inform both teachers and students of really where they are in working towards learning goals, right? It's going to be a way to help us sort of plan our next steps and provide that clear information about how we can, as I have on the screen, how to grow forward, right? How to continue growing and learning. It informs us, right? Formative assessments are also supported in our strategic plan, and that appears in academic lever 1. So for any of you who have seen those before, the academic levers, there are 3. And so academic lever 1 is linked there. If you want to explore later as you come back to the slide deck after today, you might want to look at those academic levers a little bit more, but you can actually click on the blue box and it'll kind of illustrate the importance of providing formal and informal feedback throughout a lesson. And so it talks a little bit more about how that formative assessment appears for us and how we should be using it. All right, and here we have some examples of formative assessments. That includes brain dumps, exit tickets, open-ended prompts, multiple choice questions, even written summaries from students. And sometimes we can deliver those with paper and pencil, and that's super important. We value that practice, and we know that research shows how important that is to be having writing as a part of what we do in our learning process. And sometimes that's necessary, but then other times we can deliver things digitally with tools like Nearpod or Canvas quizzes and discussions, or sometimes we do manipulative things on Google Slides where people, sort pictures for our young learners. And we even have SchoolNet as a resource in our state where we can use that for some formative assessment. So if you would in the chat, just drop your favorite example of a formative assessment. And those of you watching the recording, you can just pause at this point and reflect on maybe formative assessments that you use and which ones you love. And so in the chat, those of you that are here, you can just drop in your favorite examples. We've got exit tickets. Lots of people using exit tickets. They're so quick and simple. Awesome. I love it. All right, thank you. Yes. Oh, with Post-it notes. I love that. Yes, the nice hands-on tangible part. Verbal check-ins. That's great. Open-ended prompts. I love brain dumps. As a person who just needs to think out loud, I love brain dumps because it allows me just to drop everything in and then move forward and really have good conversations. Oh, a Padlet. Nice. Awesome. And some people using SchoolNet. That's great. All right. All right, so here we are at the craft model. And now that we kind of have a clear picture of what formative assessment can look like, what are some examples and what is it really for, just to make sure we're on the same page, now we can really dive into the craft model and determine how it can help us with formative assessment creation. So the craft model was designed by the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and they included that as part of their guidance around AI use. And so if you haven't seen the DPI's documentation, you're not alone. They do have a lengthy multi-page document. And Danielle, you can even put that link in the chat if you want, if anybody wants to peek at that and save it to their favorites in their browser. But it's also on the slide, which is slide number 9. So you can click on that infographic and it'll take you to that full document where the craft model appears. And so we use the craft model to really help us write more effective AI prompts. It helps us just get better responses when AI is generating something for us, right? And so the craft model starts with context. That's what the C is for. And it just builds like some understanding around the details of what you really need. And then for role, that's like, what do you want a tool like ChatGPT, like what role do you want it to play? Do you want it to be a teacher, a coach, a guide? Do you want it to be a facilitator? Do you want it, to just directly give you information or just help you create something? Maybe be a co-teacher with you. And for our A, that's our audience. And so that's like, who am I asking you to create something for? Well, in this sense, if we're creating a formative assessment, is that for our 8th grade students? Is it for our science class, right? Giving it some context. Is this for our multilingual learners? And so think about like who the audience is that will be using whatever it is that it's creating. And then finally, we have the T, which is kind of a double one there, task and tone. And so maybe if you're asking it to help you craft an email, right, what tone do you want it to have? And if it's for a task, what exactly kind of a task is it going to complete, right? Is it going to edit, brainstorm, revise? What kind of a task do you really want it to do? You might be able to hear the announcements. I'm so sorry. All right, so this is a quick example of the craft model. And it starts off like you're a 7th grade math teacher and you're teaching 7th grade students who struggle to understand proportional relationships in math. And you can tell that red there, you are a 7th grader, right? So you can drop in the chat, like, which part of craft do you think that is? And we've color coded it to help you, but look at that 7th grade math teacher. What do you think that is of the craft model? And so that's the role, right? What role do we want it to play? That's right. We've got it. And so then if you look through, you can kind of see the context. You can see the audience and the task and tone, right? The task specifically. And it's saying, please use a clear and specific tone like a teacher, right? We want it to sound like a teacher, not some scholar who's done tons of research. We want it to be something that would be explained really well. All right, there's a student giving announcements. I'm so sorry, y'all, if you can hear all that. But here we go. So this next example, take a moment again to notice like what elements of craft do you see: context, role, audience, format, and task or tone. And so can anyone find the format that we're asking it to create as you look at that prompt? And if you can, drop that in the chat. If you're watching the recording, you can pause and see if you can find those different elements. 2 multiple choice questions. There we go. And 1 open-ended response. Yep. That's helping us understand the format better. That blue part. There we go. Awesome. And we can see our audience really clearly, right? 5th grade students. And we have, limited English proficiency. So provide some scaffolds, right? So you can see how the more detailed we are, it's going to hopefully better understand what it is that we're looking for. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to jump in and switch tabs for you. So here's where I have sent this prompt. I literally copied and pasted it from that slide, right? And so in ChatGPT, there's a little a button where you can sort of type and give it the response. And so that's where I started. And so then it's saying, okay, well, here's the standard you asked for, LS 5.1.1. And it tells me what it thinks the standard is. And so then it provides, there's 2 multiple choice questions. And then it gives me an open-ended questions. And look at that, it provided sentence starters, right? Remember that part where I defined my audience more clearly, that I had some students who might struggle with English proficiency. So it's given me some prompts that I can use, right? And so as I go through, it tells me like how it has included accessibility and UDL considerations. But then I had to ask it a question, because one thing we know about generative AI is that it can hallucinate. It can make things up, and sometimes it's not accurate. And I said, can you share where you got the objective? It doesn't match what I have. And it says, you're right to double check. Before proceeding, let me confirm the correct objective. And then it says, oh, my bad. Here is the correct one. And so it gave me a whole quiz that wasn't correct, right? So as a teacher, I'm the expert on my curriculum. And so sometimes I have to evaluate what AI is giving me to make sure that I'm getting the right kinds of things. And so then it gave me questions that were aligned to the correct standard that I needed, still gave me the open-ended questions and all of this. And so it was really helpful once I got that correct information. But I kept that in there because I really wanted to point out, like, it's a conversation, right? I asked it a question. It gave me some misinformation. So I asked it to clarify and redirect it. And then it gave me a really great result. And so we have to use a really critical eye when we're using AI. And so let me go on to slide 12, and we're going to talk a little bit quickly because we're running out of time, but about the feedback piece. There's 7 keys to effective feedback. And the infographic, you can click on that and read more about that later. But really what we want to do is make sure that when I'm asking tools like ChatGPT to give me feedback, that I'm considering these as a teacher. I want to make sure that it's goal referenced. I want to make sure that it's transparent or actionable and user-friendly and consistent, right? And then I can do my part to make sure that it's ongoing and timely for my students. And so here is a answer key and feedback. So this is what I'm going to put in ChatGPT next. So please create an answer key for this exit ticket, this same 5th grade one that it's got correct now. And I want it to provide some feedback for my students. And I'll pause while I'm copying this link, the text, and let y'all read that.
Sadie, I think there's one thing that I'd like to say, if I can.
Yes, please do.
In the craft model, it's context, role, audience, format, task, and tone. That does not need to follow that order. So some
Correct.
people think like this is like, it has to start out with the seek, and then the role, then the audience. It can be whatever order you want, just kind of like you saw in those slides beforehand. Like the different colors were not always the same. You had the blue color, then you had a red and orange, and then you had a blue again. So don't be afraid to reiterate or to describe more of what you want of that thing. And does not need to follow that order.
Yes, thank you for adding that. That's
one
really
thing.
important.
Sorry, one more thing to add.
Yeah.
I threw in the chat a forced copy of just like the craft model written out for those who'd like to write out their ideas and kind of see the examples at the same time, for those who are new at using it.
Yes, that's how I started. Thank you, Danielle. That was a helpful resource. All right, so I've got it here. I'm staying in the same conversation because ChatGPT, for those of you that haven't really used it before, it is like having a conversation with a colleague. So I am going to paste my prompt in here from that slide, asking it for the feedback, making sure that it's standards aligned, right? That goal referenced reflective feedback that will help students clear up understandings. And so let's see live what it's going to give us. All right, here we go. Answer key. And it's paused. Hold on. I'm going to try it one more time. There it goes. I don't know why it froze like that. Okay, sometimes you have to ask it again. It's a little frozen. Web-based tools do that sometimes. All right, so here we go. So now you can see it says the correct answer for the question that it gave me above. So it remembered what those questions were. And then it gave me feedback for the incorrect answers, right? And then I can, as a teacher, read that and adjust and modify that as I need to, so that I can then utilize that with my students and give them that timely, ongoing feedback. And for the open-ended question, it even gave me an example of a strong response. So as I'm grading that, I might be able to consider like, oh, how might a good response look, so that when I'm going through and reading all of my students' responses, I have an exemplar to compare it to. And then again, it gives different kinds of feedback on the types of responses that students may have answered, right? So it's a really fun way to, like, in a quick way to create some content, be evaluative of it, and then help you get on track and kind of do that a little faster. And so once you get those results, you can then put it in something like Nearpod or Canvas quizzes, right? So that some of that will be self-grading, and it will help streamline that process for you. So once you get those created, then you can move it on to either a print form on pencil paper or a digital platform. And so before we finalize everything, we just want to make sure that we take time to review some important reminders. And so the first thing, when we give feedback to students, it's really important that we personalize it for students. We need to add their name, right? Don't just copy and paste the response because ChatGPT said so. We want to make sure that we're adjusting and rewording things as needed to meet each student's individual needs. And then there's a link there for personally identifiable information, PII. And so we just want to make sure when we're using tools like ChatGPT or other generative AI tools that we are not including personally identifiable information about our students or our staff in those AI platforms. We also, as I demonstrated today, like check for accuracy and hallucinations, because what it doesn't know, it will fill in the blanks. And so sometimes you might have to give it more context and resources to help it understand what you're looking for and be accurate, especially with subjects like math. And then you want to make sure whatever it creates is standards aligned always. And finally, because this is a supplemental resource, we want to make sure that we're following that board policy 3200. Each school has a procedure for how they evaluate supplemental resources. So when you create something with ChatGPT, run it by your team, whatever your procedure is. It might need to go through MTAC, but just make sure that you're being compliant there to be safe for everyone. And now we are at our point where we can ask some questions. So if you are watching the recording, this is a good time to just pause, jot down your questions and thoughts. And if you're here live, go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. You can also, in the center of your Google Meet window, you can use the hand raise feature and wait to be called on. And we'll pause and give you time to type out some questions if you have them. It's fast and furious. All right. I don't see any hands, right? Danielle and Mike, I don't see anybody.
No, I don't see. We do have a question in the chat from Derek Evans. It says, if we are interested in some PD, not that we have teacher work days left, who would be our contact? And that will be your DLC. And we're going to get ready shortly. Going to share that out and be able to. Oh, Mike is your DLC.
Nice. I love it. Oh,
but yeah,
I got
there
you.
you go, Mr. Evans. Mike is one of your
I got you.
incredible DLCs. Yes, you will be in good hands. Yes, just email. I'm going to show you in a moment how to find those folks, and we'll make sure that you can definitely reach out there. Awesome. Okay. Because of our time, I'm going to skip forward to our contact information. And Danielle has dropped the link in the chat. When you visit the Digital Learning Coordinator website, you can even just click on slide 17. Again, it's in the chat. And if you select the icon that says area DLCs, it looks like a little map pin. For those of you that are listening, you click on that and it will take you, you just need to know your area. And if you're not sure when you click on an area, for example, I serve the northern area. And so when you click on northern area, it will have a list of all the schools. So if you're not sure, you can just kind of click around and find your area. There's also a spreadsheet at the bottom of that page. If you want to click on that and open it full screen, you can scroll, find your area and see who your DLCs are. And then I see we have another question. Oh, MagicSchool. Yes. So I don't want to pronounce your name wrong, but we definitely can email you with the links and everything. But we are going to have the recordings and the slide decks posted to that Wake Connect page. So when you go to Wake Connect, you can search AI Literacy Day, and we are going to, it'll take a few days because we've got to get the recordings, edit them, put them in YouTube and link them and all that. But we'll send emails out letting everybody know when those are ready. And oh, perfect, Mike. Thank you. Look, Mike found the presentation already. Yes. So, and again, let your DLCs know if you need help with that. So Zebulon, you're I think, Eastern area. Is that right?
That would be Liz and Jess, I think.
Yes. So look at the Eastern area, contact them, and they can even come out to your school and present that to you. Yeah, good. So you know your DLCs. I love it. Liz, perfect. All right. And finally, there is a feedback form, and that is on slide 18 if you're following along, and Danielle has graciously dropped that in the chat. It's a tiny bit lengthy. It's not going to take you more than 3 or 4 minutes, but you can go ahead and click that link. You'll have to put in some information about yourself, and then you can give feedback on this session specifically. You'll check mark which session this is, and again, this is the Enhanced Formative Assessments with AI. And oh no, thank you, Erin. We're going to fix that right now. Thank you so much. I apologize for that. So that you can repeat that. Say that again, Mike.
Give me 1 second and I can fix that.
Perfect. Thank you. Mike will let you know in the chat as soon as that's ready. I'm so sorry. But for those of you who are ready, you can go ahead and fill that out. And then it will also give you an opportunity to have your DLC reach out to you if you had questions. That way you don't have to go find them. We'll do that part for you if you already have questions that you know. Perfect. And Mike's saying now that if you refresh that Google form, I'm so sorry about that, you should be able to access it now. John, it was so good for you to join us. Hope y'all are good up there. Thank you, Megan. All right. And that is it. Y'all have a great, great day. We have another session coming at 10 o'clock. So it's the top of every hour. So tell your colleagues if anybody's got early lunch or anything or a planning period, or prep, you can definitely join. We appreciate y'all so much. At 10 o'clock, it is instructional expectation setting for school leaders. Maybe tell your admin team or your IFs. But it really is good for everyone. It's good information, whether you're a classroom teacher or not.